Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Aaron Harkanis Minjut, and today we have a very special interview with the Singapore Regional League champion, my friend Kashvinder Singh Mann. How are you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing good.
There you go, look at that.
Yay!
Thank you so much for wanting to do this interview with us. Um, I,
Sure, of
I'm
course.
super happy for you. Everyone was
Thank you,
rooting
man.
for you from afar. There was no stream for that event, but people were just on
Yeah,
Twitter refreshing their feeds, hoping to get an
yeah.
update. I was one
There were
of
a few
them.
guys. Yeah, there were a few guys doing updates. Hopefully, it went around.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, everyone's literally on Twitter waiting for an update on that on your run to the finals and for pretty much whether or not we could see you as champion. And look at it
Yeah.
now. We are looking at the defending Singapore Regional League champion for
Woo!
2023. Great stuff. And for those of you who don't know, the region, the Southeast Asia region, is we just concluded the regional leagues, and now we're in the national leagues at this point. So for the regional league, Singapore, you guys had 7 rounds of best of one Swiss with a top
Yep.
16 best of three top cut. So still same standard format as the rest of the world, and you went through the grueling best of one day one essentially. Came out in 12 seed, bringing
That was it.
you
Yep.
into top 16 cut, and then day two was held at the Singapore Pokemon Center, which is awesome.
That's
Like to be
that's
able to,
pretty cool, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
to be playing at the Pokemon Center. So, without further ado, could you please introduce yourself, to the listeners, to the viewers, to everyone at home? Tell us about Cashman.
Well, I'm Cash. I've been playing Pokemon since the start, really. Base set, just collect, watch the anime, play the video games, do all the fun stuff. And then I took school seriously. So I was like, okay, time to stop playing Pokemon. But then I came back in about 2016 when I went into a random Japanese store and I saw a Charizard card. I'm like, oh, that card looks cool. Maybe I should get back into it. And that's where we are.
Nice. So 2016, I believe that's when XY Evolutions was out. Well,
Evolution is the one that got me back because I saw it and it's like,
brilliant.
oh, this looks like base set. So I'm like, might as well get back into it.
Nice. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. That set is nostalgic for so many reasons now, right? Like that,
Yeah.
people were just so keen to look back at the artwork of their childhood and things like that. So it's so cool
Yeah.
that you joined back then.
Yeah. Evolution is the thing that got me back into the game.
Perfect way. And I think overall, we when we talk about joining the competitive scene, I have to not put you on the pedestal where you have been one of my go-to sources for information on the competitive scene for years now. You
Yes.
have been helping PokeStats for, I mean, in the region, as well as doing the statistics work for
Yeah.
PokeStats. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're doing in that space?
So I tried to cover all the results for Asia back in like 2018, 2019, 2020. Every event we have like League Cups, regional, SPE. Either I'm there or I have a friend there, and then we try to get all the results and then spread the word from all our region because people don't really pay attention to our region. So I was just there to spread the word of Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, all our events. And now I'm doing like pretty much everything else for PokeStats.
Nice, nice. And so if you ever have come across the PokeStats webpage or the websites or even follow them on Twitter, know that Cash is one of the few people working, tirelessly behind that, to get us information that all of us really appreciate, right? So without further ado, let's jump into the event itself, right? And as everyone can see in front of you right now, this is your deck list that you played. Arceus VSTAR, Giratina VSTAR with a few friends, which
Yep.
I'm very sure you're excited to talk about. You know, so you played Arceus Giratina, one
Yeah.
of the one of the hot decks coming into the post rotation format, but didn't really see
y-
a lot of play in the earlier tournaments.
Yeah.
So, what made you choose this deck for the Singapore Regional League?
This deck was more of a comfort pick for me, but I tested it out like at local leagues, test by myself, test in online tournaments, and I felt, oh, this deck has a good matchup against Lost Box, which I thought would be the most played in the regional league. and also against Gardevoir, which I also thought was going to be the most played. So I thought if I can beat these two and avoid all my tricky matchups, I should be able to do well. And even the tricky matchups weren't that bad. Like against Mew, Lugia, I still have a game plan to beat those decks. So I thought like I had the best matchup against almost everything.
Great to hear. And maybe just a follow up question to that, right? The deck list has a few nuances which, you like. I mean, we all would say we're adding our own touches to an archetype, right? Adding our own
Mm.
flavor. What would you say would be, your flavor or your spice, as we would call it, that you would add? And does it really equate to, your best card, for example, throughout a tournament? Could you tell us a bit more about that?
I think the best one for me was probably the double escape rope because most Arceus deck plays just the one switch and the one escape rope. So people will be expecting like, okay, once they've used two of them, might trap somebody up and they can't retreat. So the second escape rope gives me an option to, you know, get out my Bibber from the active or even more options to cast basically. And it's also mainly for Gudra because Gudra, if they're stuck in the active and hit Rolling Iron, you have to switch it out and then you pause it out and then you can hit for 280 against Gudra.
Nice, well said. And maybe everyone's probably, on the Squavet hype train at this stage, right? There it is. Is that the same one that you took to the event?
Yes, this
Brilliant.
cover I got from a random ETB in Los Angeles, and it's somehow worked well for me.
And you'll never let it go now. That will be
Now,
your Squavet for life.
yeah, because this cover was so underrated. Like back then when I played Arctina, you have Bibarel.
Hmm.
Bibarel is good because you can just draw cards. Like it's the same as Octillery back in the day. You just refresh the
Auxiliary.
hand.
Auxiliary.
The
Yeah.
problem, yeah, the problem is sometimes you have those hands where you can't really even use Bibarel because it's like four unplayable cards. You draw another card. Oh, okay, my hand is still dead. But now with Covert, you can refresh the hand, don't even see those dead cards, and just get even more cards.
Yeah, and we've seen Squavet do a lot on that same weekend that you won the Singapore Regional League. It also helped out, players across the world. I think it was in the US where a Squavet Nestash for Giratina as well as Arceus VSTAR in the
Oh,
finals.
yeah,
Exactly. So brilliant card, one of the unsung heroes at the start of the format, but now definitely an auto
yeah,
include almost in Arceus Giratina.
yeah. And Covert also got me a boss that got me into top 16.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I think the real thing that I'm really keen to ask is that the list that you refined here, did you have a testing group that you rely on, or is it just purely from grinding as many games as you can? How did you comprise this list?
So the list I actually got from one of my US friends called Harrison Birch. He's like the Arceus king. He's been playing Arceus the whole way. And then he shared this list and I thought, oh, this looks pretty nice. And then I saw the three tracking shoes. I thought, okay, that's the one for me. Because as you know, Arceus, the game plan, I call it EA Sports. Energy, Arceus in the game. That's all we want. But as you know, sometimes when you play Arceus, you might have the Arceus, you don't have the energy. You might have the energy, you don't have the Arceus. So the three tracking shoes help you sometimes dig through the deck to get that first turn energy and Arceus.
That's an interesting point. Like when I saw tree tracking shoes, I'm like, hey, this is a very unique build, right?
Yeah,
I'm a huge Arceus fan, right? I think
yeah,
we both know we've been playing Arceus as
yeah,
much as we can. I pair it with a different dragon, which is a flavor that I prefer. But tracking
yeah,
shoes is one of those cards, right? When you least expect it, digs you two cards deep, gets you exactly what you need off that, and from there, I just say EA Sports the game. And I hope we don't get
yeah,
copyright strike for that.
yeah. Because there was a game where I started, I think just Giratina, I had the energy, I had nothing else, but I had two tracking shoes. Use tracking shoe, okay, first one failed. Second one, got the nest ball, Arceus, energy, we're in the game. Safe.
Solid. That's solid.
Yeah.
You know, I think one other question that I would have for Arceus Giratina players is that the idea behind the deck is always I'm gonna Starbirth and I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna stick a Judge Path,
Yes.
right? what is the idea behind running the four judge, which is pretty standard, but only three
Hmm.
paths to the peak? Is there something that you're looking at this
Yeah,
point?
yeah, because I was looking at deck lists and I see like most people don't play at least more than three stadiums. So I thought three should be okay because I've tried four stadiums and I've had hands where I just draw into stadiums and I can't really
Mm-hmm.
play them because I already have the stadium. So I thought, take a risk, maybe play three, and then so it won't jank up my hand. Because sometimes you get those hands where you have like three path and then maybe a research is like, oh dear, I can't do my game plan of path judge.
Hey, that makes a lot of sense. So for those of you who are looking to play, judge path combination, know that three and four, or four and three, I should say, is just as good as four and four, right?
Yeah.
And then the one last card here that folks would be very interested to know about is that one off Palpat that you have here in the list. Uh, it's not uncommon that Arceus Giratina or any Arceus deck runs one offs. We've seen, like for example, your one choice belt, we could run one switch and one escape rope. But what is the thinking behind this single Palpat that you have here?
It's just to save like Sharon Scare is very important against Lost Box. So sometimes if I can set up without using Starbuff, I'll go Starbuff for Sharon Scare and Pelpet so I can scoop up the first Arceus attack and then save the Sharon Care for the next turn. Or if like because I play only three boss, sometimes you have those hands where you have to throw away the boss early on. You can use Pelpet to recover them and then you can get boss late game. It's just mainly for those. Or even sometimes, you play against decks where you just have to judge. So it's like you can just Pelpet two judge. Now I have six judges.
Very nice, very nice. So I think thank you for that run through on the list. I know folks at home who are watching, if you're looking to pick up Arceus Giratina for, any of the upcoming events here in Southeast Asia or even beyond, you've just gotten a very good overview from Kash himself on that. Let's jump to your matchups, which I think were some of the more interesting stuff happening, right? So let's jump
Yeah.
to the matchups and let's see what's going on there. Here we have your matchups, and I really appreciate that you took down these notes that we could,
Yep.
share with the world right now. So, Kansas road to the championship. Day one, you got in at 12 seed with 5 wins and two
Two
losses.
lost. Yeah.
Uh, Based on what we see here, you took 2 games against Lawson Box. Again, I think that Sharon Scare would have been huge in those matchups, I want to
Yeah.
presume. You had a very interesting round two, which is Dialga V-Star Magnezone, which you also managed to
Yeah.
take down. Interesting there. You had a win against Lugia and a loss against Lugia.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Lugia. What is this tug of war with Lugia that you're having?
So the Lugia to me is a bad matchup. Like I know if they set up, I'm in trouble because they have fighting type attackers that can knock out my Arceus. Their Tyrannida can knock out my Tina. So my game plan is just to off judge, slow them down as much as possible. But now they play four stadiums, so it's a bit difficult to pull that off.
Good, and at least you still went 50-50 against Lugia in day one,
Yeah,
so it's not horrible to say the
I
least, right?
I did get a bit lucky because my first opponent well the first attack he tried to knock out my Arceus, but he forgot I had V guard on my first Arceus, so
Oh,
so he couldn't knock it out, and then he priced his single strike Urshifu V.
that must be rough. That must be really
Yeah.
rough. Yeah.
And the second Arceus loss is I misplayed a bit. I didn't count my energies properly. I got a bit nervous, and I only put one energy on my Giratina when I should have put two. That way, I could have still won with my last Arceus.
Oh, so that was your round six. That would have been your winning in. So
Yeah,
so nerves definitely would come into play, but at least you went 50-50 against what is arguably the best deck in format at this
yeah,
point, I think, at this stage. So not too bad. You also had a loss to Mew on round four. And I don't know how the Singapore meta was, but Mew was very popular here in Malaysia when I was playing the regional
it's
league.
also
It's also
it's
popular in
also pop.
Singapore.
Yeah,
There we go. So tell me about Mew, and I know spoiler alert for those of you watching the channel. Mew VMAX won the Philippine National Championship, which was right after this tournament,
yep,
and there were a lot of Mews there as well in the Philippines.
and
So
Indonesia as well.
and Indonesia as well. Yeah, you're right. So
Yeah,
so Mew has been dominating not just the meta but also the tournaments here in Southeast Asia.
yeah.
So what do you think about the Mew matchup for Arceus Giratina?
It's really 50-50. Like it depends on who pulls off the game plan first. Cause both our game plans are the same. We just want to puff and judge. But for them is if they have lost vacuums to build them out of judge. So my game plan is hopefully I go first. I set up my Arceus and get my Bibarel and I can like judge them. Because if I judge them, because usually if they do use Puff, they'll have the last vacuum in hand just to get them out the next turn. So my hope is always to judge them, get them into a dead hand, and then just keep attacking them. And then my usual game plan is not to worry about the Mew first. I try to go after the Genesects first. So I try to knock out the first Genesect, second Genesect, then hopefully I build up a Tina just to take down the Mew.
And I suppose that game plan really trickled down into your first round in day two because I see a double wins there against New VMAX. So not
Same guy.
horrible. Same person. All right.
Yeah, same guy.
So that was avenging your loss in round four and day one.
Yeah. Because round four, like he started two Genesects but nothing else. I started with Arceus Energy and I saw my hand I had Arceus V-Star, Research, two bosses. And I already know like I have to use the boss to get around the Mew. So I'm like
Oh, rough.
so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to play a trick. I'm like, oh my hand's dead. Okay, pass. So I'm like trying to act as if my hand is dead, but actually it's not. I'm like, hopefully you
Yeah.
won't judge me. So then my opponent's like, okay, let me help you. Let's judge. Nothing I can
Ouch.
do about it.
Ouch.
And then of course they judge me into a dead hand
And they stuck a path as well.
and the stuck off. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's how the Mew matchup rolls, right? For RCS,
Yeah.
I always like to play against Mew as an RCS player as long as I can
Yeah.
bench two RCS and not lose one right
Yeah.
away.
Exactly.
But it's always interesting that now for RCS Giratina, it's always about who judges and paths first, and
Yeah.
that is
Exactly.
such an interesting thing to see in the format at the moment. So rounding out for day one, you also had a match against Inteleon VMAX and Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. That is an interesting deck. I see some folks in Malaysia also playing it. Was that a surprise package that you were not expecting, or do you think that
No,
was gonna come?
I was expecting it because I've
Right.
seen a lot of like in my local area, a lot of people were testing Inteleon,
Okay.
and I've been doing like every tournament I like look at the meta, look at everything, look at the
Hmm.
matchups, and the worst matchup for Arceus is actually Inteleon Rapid Strike Urshifu. So that's the one deck I didn't want to see, and so just imagine what I was thinking when I saw that as my winning in
Oh man.
matchup.
But he still won it though. That's the thing. So
Yeah, because he bricked.
yeah, and that happens in best of ones, right? That
Yep.
happens in best of ones. Alrighty. So in day two, we went through the top 16. The double win against your same round four opponent.
Hmm.
Let's talk about the interesting top eight and top four, right? We went up against double dragons this time. So first up
Yeah.
was Arceus Duraludon Vulpix, which was the deck that I played at Malaysia, and you went double wins here. And I have to say, I did not expect any less because I do not like playing against Giratina. That is for
Yeah.
sure.
Because I can set up my Tinas to take out Arceus, I can take out the
Yeah,
Vulpix. I can just ignore the Duraludon. I just take everything else out. So that was my game plan. Like
perfect.
set up my Arceus with three basic energies so I can like if I need to I can even poke the Duraludon,
Yes.
two
Mm-hmm.
shot it, and then because I think they also play like some basic like Gardevoir or something, so I can like take the three prize from Duraludon, take the two prize from Arceus, and then the Gardevoir for the last prize.
Yep, the Radiant Gardevoir,
Yep.
which is the only single prize in that deck.
Yep.
And it's all four. So Hisuian Gudra V-Star. Double escape rope came in clutch?
Yep. But the funny thing is, I actually didn't need it in the first game because my opponent started the Drapion. So I already knew,
Oh.
okay, that's two prizes right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they
Mm-hmm.
played down two Comfy, so that's prize 3 and prize 4. And they played down a Greninja, prize 5. So now I just try to work around the board.
Right.
And then I think he got stuck, so he had to bench another Comfy, so I'm like, right there, prize 6.
There we go. So Gudra's completely ignored for the entirety of
Yeah,
that match. And then you're
yeah. And
fine. Yeah. No, go ahead.
then game 2 is he just got stuck. He just had
Mm-hmm.
Comfy, Tina, flower selecting, nothing else. Then same thing again. So I just took down the first Comfy, Greninja comes up, and then the Gudra comes up, and then I had to just pray like, okay. path judge. Hopefully he doesn't bump it, and luckily he didn't bump it.
Sweet, sweet. That's how Judge Path works, man.
Yep.
And so now the finals, Gardevoir EX.
Yeah. My
That
first Gardevoir.
your first Gardevoir throughout the entire day, and it
Yeah.
was touted as one of the new decks coming into Scarlet and Violet from Scarlet and Violet.
Hmm.
There was a lot of it in Malaysia. How was it in Singapore? And tell us about that finals match, which went down to the wire.
Yeah, I think the most popular was obviously Lost Box, and I think Gardevoir was the second most popular, then Mew.
Wow.
And Gardevoir actually is pretty good matchup for me. And then I heard from my friends like, oh yeah, Jitmin doesn't play the Sky Steel Stone, which is pretty good for me. So he can like take three prizes, take two
Exactly.
prizes, take one prizes. And then also I think his deck had like a bit of an error because there's no Radiant Greninja, so he can't set up quite quickly.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
That is
So the
interesting.
yeah, but he so in place of Greninja is the second Mew.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So there's double Mew, no Radiant
Yeah.
Greninja, and yet I remember you telling me about this. In our messages to each other that it still went down to almost to the wire, but you actually had a few extra turns set up to close out the game. How
Yeah.
what happened there?
So game three, I had like the perfect start, and then I think he only down two routes. I was thinking something must be going on, and then my friends told me like after the game, oh yeah, he priced two routes.
There
So
we go.
even though I didn't know that, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go after the routes first. So
Mhm.
my second turn, I gave Arceus, boss the first routes, try to limit the engine, like cut off all the engine. Then after that, he got the Zacian set up, but by that point, I already had an Arceus with three basic energy set up. So all I needed was just Choice Belt, Boss, KO that one up to three prizes already. Then I knocked out some other, I think Mew or Cresselia or something like that. So now I'm left with two prizes, and he still has six prizes. And then that's where I got a bit too excited.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, I have an Arceus, choice belt 230. He attacks with a Gardevoir. I'm doing maths. I'm like, wait, the Gardevoir is 230 HP. Wait a second. My Arceus with choice belt can hit 230. Retreat. I got too excited and then I realized that I announced attack and then we shook hands and I'm like, wait a second. That's a choice belt. That doesn't hit EXs.
Oh.
Easy mistake to make.
There we go.
But the funny thing is, actually, it didn't matter because like
Mhm.
me hitting the Gardevoir, I now had two prizes to take down because I was still holding on to my second escape route.
Right. So you pretty much had game on board from that stage
Yeah,
onwards.
yeah,
Nicely done. Nicely done. There you
yeah.
go. So
It's
I
just sometimes when you're in that kind of situation, you're in the finals.
for
Like
sure. Yeah.
I mean, the easiest thing is like just research, get my Giratina VSTAR, attack, win. But it's the finals. I got a bit too nervous and then
Mm-hmm.
just made the wrong move. It happens sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It does. But regardless of that, that pretty much sums up your entire journey, right? You went all the way 5-12 seed in day one, winning, dropping only a single game in day two. That is
Yep.
crazy. That's a crazy statistic, right? Overall,
Yeah.
and and now the reigning Singapore Regionals
Woo.
champion, right?
Yeah, I am still in disbelief, honestly.
It's been almost 2 weeks now. I think
Yeah, I still don't believe it. I'm like,
it's surreal
I
for
just
sure.
look at it
It is
like, oh,
surreal.
it's real. Okay.
So I think one thing, last two questions from me, right? The first question is, you know, what is your advice to folks who are looking at your deck, looking at your run, at the regional league? What is your advice to them? Who folks that could be new, could be returning, could be someone that's been in the community for years now. What do you say to them who want when if they want to pick up Arceus Giratina for their next big event?
Like, simple advice is just to keep playing. Like, that's all I do. Like, I just play, practice over and over and over again until the point like I know all the lines I need to take. I know which attack I need to use. Uh, who I need to go after. Like, how I need to set up. Like, it just from playing and playing and playing. Like, either be it online, IRL, whatever. Just find find time to play games with the deck. at least, I don't know, 50, 100 games, and then you just it's just repetition. The more you play, the more you start to get used to everything.
Well said, man. Well said. And before you I let you go, I know you're really busy and really popular. You have multiple interviews lined up. Being the Mr. Popular that you are around the world in the Pokemon TCG scene, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the season? The regionals are behind us, the national
Yeah.
championships are coming up, and of course there's worlds. What is on your mind at this stage?
The next one is the championships. That's the one I'm now practicing and just putting all my focus on. Like, because even though now I'm second in the standings, I know anything can still happen. So I'm like, just trying to focus on just doing good, well enough to hopefully get top 16 or top 8 even, just to try to get the points I need to make it to the top 4 standings and hopefully get my first world invite.
Great stuff, and I really hope you do that. You definitely deserve that invite, my friend.
Yeah.
That's the epitome of a season, right? Going through all the
Yeah.
way, enjoying the game as much as you can, but also getting the chance to play at Worlds. So
Yeah.
with that,
That's
yeah.
that's the dream, man. Like, just even if it's one time, I'll take it.
And what better place to have your first time at Worlds than the home of Pokemon itself in Yokohama, Japan,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Nicely said. And I think that brings it to the end of this very detailed, interview with Cash. Cash, thank you so much for taking your time with us. I really hope the viewers at home, can take back a lot of insights from this very very short but very very filled with little tidbits in this half an hour that we just had. I wish you all the best on that journey to that World's
Thanks, man.
invite. I really hope I can see you there. I'm definitely retired now, but I hope to see you in a different capacity over in Japan in Yokohama.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, fingers crossed
Yeah.
across the board, right? Take care. And for those of you at home, really appreciate you tuning in. Please give a like, a share, comment, subscribe. You know all that. And we'll definitely be back with more content real soon. Take care, everyone. Ciao for now.